have to imagine.
When I decided to go to high school, I wanted to be somewhere where I felt safe and unique and accepted.
They understand what it means to be from the South Side, to be a first-generational college student.
It's a push. If you are struggling and you feel like it is too much, they'll help out. They'll ease off on you, take a little bit off and help for sure.
It's gonna boost my future a lot. Going to A&M, going to med school, and hopefully becoming a neurologist for pediatrics.
Cass Med High School. Discover your potential. A San Antonio ISD and Cass Network partnership school. Always enrolling and open to any student regardless of where they live. Call 210-228-3380 for more information or log on to saisd.net/applycassmed.
Welcome to Cass Live, where leaders connect with future leaders. My name is Honor Smith, a senior at Cass Med High School. Today we are excited to have Chef Johnny Hernandez. Chef Hernandez was born and raised in a community of first-generation Mexican-American families and grew up surrounded by the foods and traditions of interior Mexico that made their way across the border. Encouraged by his father to become a chef, he attended the prestigious Culinary Institute of America in New York. Chef Hernandez is dedicated to showcasing the work of local and Mexican artists in all his restaurants, products, and projects. Some of these incredible projects include the largest Day of the Dead celebration in the United States, the Paella Challenge, which is an event that raises scholarships for young cooks and future chefs, and his plethora of restaurants, including 4 La Gloria locations in San Antonio, the Fruteria y Botanero, Burgerteca, and Tortilleria La Gloria. Chef Hernandez is dedicated to community, service, and making San Antonio the culinary mecca it is today. Please welcome Chef Johnny Hernandez.
Good morning. It's great to be here. You know, we moved into, thank you for that introduction. That's right. We moved into Brooks about October. We have a La Gloria here at Kennedy Hill, and it has been a journey to open that restaurant for sure, just because it started like a conversation with the board of Brooks maybe about 6 years ago. Brooks Development wanted to bring a local chef, a local restaurateur to the campus, and they were committed to doing that. So we're excited to be here at Brooks. I know some of you all are going to go by there for lunch, and La Gloria is our restaurant brand that is really has opened the world of food and the access to people, to culture, to our community and beyond. So it's been a blessing for me, my family, and my entire team. So I know that most of y'all are seniors, and there's some juniors here. And Jean asked me to share some thoughts, ideas, and some experiences with you, because I was obviously a senior many years ago. But there's a lot of things that I think that have shaped my career, some of the decisions I've made, some of the successes, some of the failures, and I'm going to walk you through some slides that are different challenges and different opportunities and blessings that I've been fortunate to experience. You know, one of the things that you will learn in life to be successful and to be in demand, everything you do should be with purpose, focused, determination. And I was sitting here and I looked at my logo. That logo, that symbol there is called the Hunamku. And I was in Oaxaca about 15 years ago, and I was moved by the explanation of that logo, because it was an artisan, their family, they were weaving blankets. And I asked the señor, like, what is that? What is the logo? What is it? What does it symbolize? And it's called the Hunamku, and it is a Mayan symbol, and it represents the equilibrium of the universe to these indigenous cultures that have lived in the Americas. And it has 2 clasping hands in the center. And it references the balance of life, the balance of the universe, and through different symbols that are here, that are part of this. And then I incorporated my initials, JPH. And so 15 years ago, I decided that was going to be my symbol because it represents a lot of what I believe in, which is balance, healthy, and the good, the bad, the struggle for success and to grow and develop. So I thought I'd share that with you because people don't really see that. It's not a very common symbol. And but again, with purpose, right? I like, you know what? It's very intentional, and it's a beautiful story, and I love history. And it made a lot of sense to how I make decisions and I live my life and how I see the world. All right, so we'll get started here. As they said, I'm a chef and I have restaurants. You know, when I was growing up in my dad's business, my mom's cafeteria, they had a small restaurant on the west side of San Antonio. So I'm from San Antonio, grew up in the Edgewood district, and, you know, grew up in a house that's, you know, the size of this small area here, and never realized, you know, how small our house was till I drove by, you know, 10, 15 years later, 20 years later as an adult. But we grew up on the west side. Dad was a chef, he was a cook, and I grew up working alongside him. And so very early in life, you know, I realized this is my calling, this is what I enjoy. This, you know, it's like I'm a little kid and I get up in the morning and I want to go help Dad in the kitchen. And I mean, that's maybe not normal for everyone, but I think that, you know, when I see these images and I look back and think back, you know, I think of, you know, this, you know, what I was fortunate enough to do was grow up in a business that I loved and appreciated and made it a career. And that's a huge blessing because I interface with a lot of young people today, and there's so much information out there. There's so much opportunity. There's so many interesting things. And for me to be at such a young age, know what my calling is, and to be on that path for a career, it really speaks to some of the successes that I've been very fortunate to have, and really enjoy the work, even through some of the most difficult times of a lifetime, which was obviously the pandemic. You know, I've continued to enjoy the work, and I still do, and get up every morning. And sometimes I have some employees, they're struggling, and sometimes it's personal, but sometimes I stop them and I say, you know, do you enjoy this work? Is this what you want to be doing? Sometimes I interviewed somebody a couple days ago, and it's a young man, maybe in his still in his you know, maybe early 30s, and so. And I'm like I really try to get into people's head when I'm hiring for key positions, because I really want to make sure they enjoy the work, that they want to be in the hospitality business serving people, and again, that's think about that. You know, you're very young, so it's hard to know what is my calling. At the end of the day, if you enjoy it, you love it, you know, it's going to make you that much more successful. Success will be that much easier because it's something you appreciate and enjoy, and you're hungry for. You're hungry to learn, hungry to move forward, hungry to get up and work on it again, right? So this was me on the top right there. I was a senior. I had just graduated from Kennedy High School, and I'd never been to New York, and so, you know, piled everything in my car. A friend of my dad's drove me up to New York, and it really opened my eyes to the hospitality, the food world. Dad always wanted me to get my education. You know, Dad did not speak a whole lot of English, never went to school. Okay, he was a migrant worker, never went to school. Mom went to the 7th, 8th grade. All right, so we spoke Spanish in the house. All he knew was education was the path to a better life. Because I think in his career, he realized that education and him not being able to read English and speak English stopped him from growing as a chef, as a cook, because Dad could make anything taste delicious. And he got offered jobs several times. People would come into his cafe. You know, we want you to open up another one over here, over there, come into this school, cook in our kitchens, cook in our campuses. But Dad, didn't have that education. So he knew that was important and essential for my success. So these are a few slides. When I was graduating, Dad passed away. When I had just started like my first, I was not even done with my first semester, and they pulled me out of class, and Dad had passed away of a heart attack and a stroke. So he never really got to see me graduate from cooking school. And that was his dream. You have to understand, for me to be a chef. I mean, if you have your parents and they're pushing you, and they encourage you, their innate desire is for you to succeed and do better than they did. I mean, that's the nurturing of a parent that's innate in us, and you'll be there someday and you'll understand. It all makes sense. But so I thought I'd share some of those pictures, and then invest in yourself, right? Mom gave me a coffee can of money, and that's what she sent me out the door with to go to school. And I worked obviously through high school all the time. There was a few $1,000s in that coffee can, and the rest was grants, scholarships. I worked nonstop at school to finish the wishes of my parents, and what I really wanted was grow and learn the industry. And at the time that I was in the kitchen and growing up, French food was like the pinnacle of the food industry was France and these global cuisines. So a lot of the education from the Culinary Institute of America is French-based. So that was like the premier school, and Dad always said, you're gonna go to the best school. And so here I was, and there we graduated, and there's Mom and my tia Emma and my brother Mark. So invest in yourself, right? That's that's what should be something that you're constantly thinking about. How do I invest in myself, and what do I need to continue to advance and move forward? These are some of our brands. So like they mentioned, we have about 15 restaurants. Some are fruterias, taquerias. We have a burger joint called Burgerteca with paletas, nieves. We have margarita truck program we started during the pandemic. We're delivering to neighborhoods. There's our Brooks. Super Bien is a restaurant I just opened up at the airport about 2 months ago. And then about a month ago, I opened up Casa Hernán Cantina. That's a kind of an hacienda vibe, pretty cool Mexican bar. One of the things that is important to me, when I was, I had been a chef for about 15 years already, and I said, I want to, what's next for me in my career? And, I determined that there wasn't a Latino, there wasn't a Hispanic chef of Mexican heritage in Texas, or frankly in America, that was an authority on Mexican food and culture. And so, as you're thinking of your career, what you want to do, what do you aspire to do, you're always also thinking, what are the opportunities, right? You just don't want a career or a degree without where is the opportunity to use it. So like I said, back to the very first slide, everything I've done is with intention. There's very few things that I will do without carefully thinking about it. And that's just the way I am. That's the way I'm wired as an individual, because we're all unique. We all think differently. I think of every single step and every single outcome before I take that first step. And it's just from experiences and then how quirky I am about researching things. And so everything that we do within our brand that I've worked on is focused on Mexican food and culture. And that's part of what I love, right? I love history, I love culture. So I travel through Mexico, I travel through Latin America, and doing what I love, but it's also work. And I also try to bring that here to the marketplace as a business person. So that's the entrepreneurial spirit in me. As a little kid, I would make the tacos at my dad's restaurant, and then I would go sell them at school, okay? So I had my business on the side. I was about 10 years old, 12 years old, and I would sell about 50 tacos every morning at the school. I'd sell them to the teachers, to the students, to the principal, and I was entrepreneurial. And so that's always been in me as well as a kid, as a student. I think because I saw Mom and Dad all the time, like they go out, they shop, they buy the food, they cook it, they sell it. And when you grow up in the business, I mean, that's who you are, right? When you grow up doing something. And I think that's what, that's also one of my, passions is about creating things and business itself, the risk, the good, the bad, the challenging, bringing a product to market. So everything that I do is inspired by Mexico. And again, that really is intentional, right? We're a Latino community, we're a Hispanic community, and the roots of our traditions come from Mexico. A lot of that, and some of it comes from Spain, right? When they arrived and conquered, and obviously the mestizo cultures are created and the Mexican food is created. And I felt it was a good story to tell, right, through food. Food is that vehicle that I use. So as I grow as an entrepreneur, as a chef, you're always challenging yourself, you're always growing, right? You're always trying to figure out what's next. What can I do different? What can I do better? What can I do to, to outpace the next guy who's next to me or next chef next to me, right? I'm always, it's a competitive thing. It's a comparative spirit that's in a lot of us, right? Nobody likes to lose, right? We want to win. We want to be ahead. And again, this school, CAST, it is something that, in my opinion, CAST kind of broke the mold and said, how are we going to teach students? How are we going to motivate students? How are we going to empower students? And again, that's an important. You are benefiting from somebody's thinking that said, you know what, we're going to break the mold. We're going to teach differently. We're going to create a different space. We're going to have to have a different process. So you should consider yourself fortunate to be here. And I've been to quite a few campuses, and it's amazing. I always think of my school, and I'm like, wow, we've come such a long way. And so here we are, back to our slides here. So one of the things that's important to me as a chef is are the ingredients that we use, right? There's been a lot of movements around locally sourced, locally grown. There's a lot of conversations around waste. There's a lot of conversations around nutrition. There's a lot of conversations around plant-based, all those things. And our corn program was one of the things that I felt was essential for our restaurants. Quality is important, sourcing is important. So we've partnered with local growers to grow our corn. And we have our own molino where we make all the masa, all the tortillas, all the chips for our restaurants. One thing I always tell, because it's hard to quantify the difference unless you have a side-by-side comparison. So it's like when you smell a freshly made tortilla and you smell one out of a bag with a lot of preservatives, I mean, it's a world apart. And that's what the corn industry is like. It's like if you've ever had a slice of Wonder Bread or buttercrust bread, it's like this white piece of bread. Well, when you have a rustic, crusty loaf that's kind of chewy, has texture, and you can see the grains in it, and it has a nice crust on it, those are made from the same seed, right? But the buttercrust bread has been bleached and washed, and they've taken everything out of it, all the nutrition, all the flavor out of it, so it can sit on the shelf for a month, right? A fresh piece of bread, a fresh tortilla, you leave it on the counter, it gets hard in a day. But if you purify, if you wash it and bleach it, you can leave it on the counter for a few days and it won't go bad. So it's not a good thing, right? So we wanted to get back to stone ground corn, growing our products, knowing where it comes from, non-GMO, organic. And every day we cook about 800 pounds of corn. And we grind it and we send it to all our restaurants, right? So we, every restaurant that has chips, tortillas, tamales, sopes, huaraches, whatever it is, they're all coming from our molino. So it's a very important core of what we do. And it's now a trend. I mean, this is a national trend. I mean, we were the only ones doing this for a long time. Now there's a bunch of chefs all over the country doing it. And now we have a great supply chain where we can scale up and supply all our restaurants. So, I wanted to share that story with you because, again, it's like understanding your marketplace, understanding the future, planning, doing things with intention and strategy for success, right? Because I remember me and a buddy of mine, Mark, we would drive around Olmus Park, and there's a bunch of nice houses, and we're kids. I mean, we're like 12, 13 years old, and we're driving. And we're like, wow, look at these houses. I want to live here someday. I could buy a house anywhere in the city. I live on the south side. It's a nice house, but I could live anywhere I wanted. But that was like, I was a kid, and I was driving through these neighborhoods, and I'm like, man, I want one of those. And again, so everything, I'm very driven, obviously. And here you are, let's say you're in your career, you're trying to think of your education, you're trying to plan your future, your career, you want that big house, you want that yacht, you want that jet, you name it, right? You dream, we're young, when I was young, I dreamed pretty big. But at the end of the day, I think no matter what you do, if you can be an expert in your field, you're going to be in demand, right? To be an expert in your field, kind of I remember sitting around the table with my friend Rolando and even AJ, and we'd sit around the table and we were, AJ, his daughter's here, but we would sit around the table and we're like, I don't know, we're in our mid-30s, I don't know, something like that maybe. And we're like, what are we going to do with, what's next for us as adults? We've got our education, we have family. What's the next step for career? And for me, it was food, obviously, but I wanted to be an expert. And we're like, okay, if I can be an expert at food and in my culture and my cuisine, then I'm in demand. That means I drive a higher price for whatever I'm doing. And it's not that it's in my restaurants, but as an expert, I've been invited all over the world to speak, to do events. These are just some slides from Germany, the UK, that's in France. So I get invited as a chef and as an expert, I get invited to do things. And I love to travel, I love history. So none of that would, if I wasn't an expert and if I hadn't done things with intention and I hadn't planned some of these things, would I have ever gotten those invitations? I don't know. I was invited to Vegas. So I opened a restaurant in Vegas, right next to Bobby's restaurant, and I've filmed with every Food Network star there is. This is, 15 years ago, 12 years ago. And then I was invited to the White House to do a fiesta for President Obama. Again, all these things are the result of planning, execution, applying myself. And you know what? What I tell young people that graduate from culinary school, you've prepared yourself, you maybe, you have your culinary education now. What's next is a healthy dose of sacrifice. And sacrifice is one of those things that means, it's kind of this vague word. What does it mean to sacrifice? And I tell young people that graduate from culinary school, be ready to roll your sleeves up and do the work, right? If somebody shows up at our restaurant with a culinary degree, I put them to a training program and they start washing dishes, and I put them in a training program. I tell, a young person who graduates from culinary school, I know that they've dedicated time to themselves and their education. They've invested in themselves. And if they're ready to step into management, I create a path for them, right? And that path is filled with learnings. So from every restaurant, starting at the very bottom, managing the door, a host at the door, a dishwasher, a server, an expediter, a cook, a prep cook, a fry cook. So we take, we take our young culinarians and we take them through a training program, and and sometimes it's tough. The hours on your feet. So sacrifice is something that in our industry, it comes with success, right? The hard work, the weekends, the holidays, you name it. If you're in the service industry, if you're in the hospitality industry, you're working when everybody else is having a good time. That's where sacrifice begins, right? In terms of the individual who steps into that industry. So I always tell young people that, hey, this is the career you've chosen. If you want to be in the restaurant industry, hospitality, consumer facing like a restaurant, then think about these things, because it is going to be part of your work life. And I know we need work-life balance and all those things, but sacrifice is essential. And again, I think part of when you get to do things well and you do things consistently for a long time, you develop a brand, you develop a reputation, and you become a trusted person, right? So I would not have been invited to the White House if they didn't trust me. If they didn't, it's one thing to be a good chef, but I'm very involved in the community. So it's the sum of a lot of things that makes the individual, right? You're going to be an expert at something. There's a lot of people that are very talented. They're skilled, but can you trust them? I don't know. Anyway, so trust. The only reason I was invited to the White House, yes, I was a great chef and had a great reputation, but I was trusted. They trusted, you know, I mean, the Secret Service and my God, everybody and my whole team, you know, but it was an amazing experience and a great honor. And I went twice to the White House, and it's something I'll never forget. But that was through consistent, you know, hard driving work. And then I think one thing that I always love to share with, I don't know how much time I have or how long I need to speak. I didn't ask, but I'm going through these slides here. One thing that's really important, you know, for me as a business owner, as somebody from the community, is that, you know, you always have to give back. And Dad would always tell me, you know, you give more than you take. And that's just a part of, you know, of my, of how I grew up. You know, Mom and Dad always had somebody living in the house. I slept on the couch longer than I think I slept in my bed. You know, so he was always very involved with the community, the church. And, you know, when you have that kind of upbringing, it becomes a part of you. And you can't change who you are, obviously. And you know, I think that, I know they spoke about an event that we just had. It's called the Paella Challenge. And the Paella Challenge is an event that I created about 14 years ago at Pearl, and it was created to raise scholarships for young people who want to pursue hospitality, want to pursue degrees in the food industry. And it was started with a group of local chefs and friends that are from other parts of the country. And it began to grow and grow, and now it's this very large event where it raises money not only for scholarships, but we built a campus on the west side of San Antonio, not far from where I grew up, to help students who want to pursue this career. Because back to that first slide, I know there's many young people on the west side that, you know, like I did, didn't have a lot of resources, didn't have a whole lot of money. And I was fortunate enough to just grow up in an industry that I loved and appreciated. And so I want to create that same opportunity for young people, not only on the west side, but anybody who really needs some guidance. In the world of information today, it's just overwhelming. And the food industry itself. I mean, when I went to culinary school in New York, you could get a degree just in culinary arts. And then like a year later, it was baking and pastries. And now we have and mind you, that's only a 2-year degree because it was very vocational at the time. Now we have bachelor degree programs that are culinary, that are hospitality. And then we have entrepreneurial tracks, we have food sciences, we have communication tracks, we have brewery, wines and spirits. So now there's, I think, a total of 8 bachelor programs. We just launched a master's degree program with Cornell in wines and spirits. I'm on the board of the Culinary Institute. And so we have these meetings every year to talk about, you know, how do we continue to drive forward as an institution of learning for hospitality. And the industry continues to grow vastly. So Kitchen Campus is a place where we invite young people not only to, you know, get into the kitchen, and we do student competitions. We have some summer boot camps that we'll do, and some like quick fire challenges where we give students baskets of food. They don't know what's in there, and they have to make a dish. And in 2 hours, they have to create something, and then we have a panel of judges and stuff. So it's a lot of fun, like some of those TV shows. So we do a lot of quick fire challenges, and this was a high school that we hosted at Kitchen Campus, and that's Chef Brown there. He's an instructor at St. Philip's, an amazing chef, amazing instructor. He is tough. I see him with the students. I'm like, oh God, man. Anyway, well, that's what they signed up for, right? They want to be chefs. He's going to make a chef out of you if you're in his class. Anyway, so that's Kitchen Campus, an important investment that I make in hospitality for students, not just myself, but my family and chefs who volunteer. And well, here's the Paella Challenge. These are photos from last year. And these are a couple high school teams that competed. It's at Mission County Park. The students up at the top right, that's a culinary program out of the Valley. And it's not even a high school culinary program. It's a nonprofit. It's like a community center where they do a small version of Kitchen Campus, what I'm doing on the west side. There's a lady doing this in the Valley, just free to students who want to pursue culinary arts. And so I invited them up because some of them are like 10 years old, they're so young. The winning team, this year Brackenridge won. So we're sending Brackenridge to visit the Culinary Institute of America in New York. So that's the grand prize. So we have 13 high schools that competed this year. And there was first, second, and third place because, there's got to be a first place. They practice a lot. So they'll fly to New York City. I'll put them on a shuttle to Grand Central Station. They'll get on a train. Because the Culinary Institute of America is upstate New York. So we put them on a train to upstate New York. And they experience the campus where I went to school. And they spend a couple of days there at the campus. And really, their eyes are open to not only travel in New York, Grand Central Station, but to visit the campus is a really big deal. And again, these are culinarians that are at different high school teams and stuff. So that is, so that is one of the, again, giving back, right? You give more than you take. And that's important. You can do that later in life, but as you grow up and have your careers. So I think, just to sum everything up, I think that for my personal career, it was education, right? Preparing myself, thinking through, what do I, for me, it was easy, right? I knew what I wanted to do, but for me, it was also as a chef and as an entrepreneur, I was trying to think of, okay, how do I position myself in the industry as an entrepreneur, as a chef, as I worked, because I worked in Vegas, worked in California, worked in New York before I started my business. It was always about learning for me, right? So I went with intention. I went to the Mirage in Vegas because they had the most amazing catering events. And I grew up, I did a lot of catering as a kid. So I went to Vegas to learn catering and learn large production hospitality events. And after I learned that in a couple years, I said, I need to now learn things on a smaller scale. So then I went to Santa Barbara, California. I worked for the Four Seasons, where it was a boutique hotel, one of the top hotels in the world. And I learned everything on a smaller scale, more refined, more precise, different palette, different ingredients, different environment. California was booming at the time and still is, but so I went to Vegas, went to California, went back to New York before I came back to San Antonio, and really was my dream was to have my own business. And I started in the catering business, but every step, right? Every step of my life as a kid has been with intention. That's not normal, but again, find your passion, find what you enjoy, find what you love, find what comes easy to you. What comes easy to you as a student? Where do you accelerate? If you can find that thing, right, that you enjoy, that you accelerate at, and again, those entrepreneurs in the group, and you can think of, well, what is it that I can make or create or serve or sell that people want? That is success, right? You can have anything you want if you can find what you enjoy, what you love, and you take it to the marketplace to sell. And again, that's what I love. And I started selling tacos, and now I'm still selling tacos. I remember I did a post, Dad would tell me, I don't want you selling tacos your whole life. He goes, I grew up, because I grew up making tortillas, because he would push me out of the way, and because I was a little kid. And I would make tortillas with a tortillera, the lady in the back of the kitchen rolling flour tortillas. So that's the first thing I learned to make were flour tortillas. And I would never forget, he always told me, he goes, I don't want you just making tacos your whole life. You got to go to culinary school, learn to be a chef. And I remember when I was invited to the White House, I did a post, I could, still hear my dad. He would tell me, I don't want you making tacos. And, but it was an honor to make them for the president. And I asked the secretary who run the White House, and I said, hey, is it okay if I make tacos? Like a taco station? And she goes, of course, chef. They're going to be the best tacos in the White House. So, still pursuing my dream, still doing what I love. So don't stop, charge forward. And, the world is an amazing place. Travel, invest in yourself, because anything you want, you can have. And, you know, you deserve it, especially if you commit, put your head down and you know, and do all the things that, you know, kind of outlined for you, you know, preparation yourself, be an expert. I don't know if there's any questions, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Chef Hernandez. We will now open the floor for any questions. When asking your question, please state your name. I'll start with the first question. What is one thing that motivated you throughout your journey?
You know, I have to be honest. when I was a kid, you know, I like taking that money. I like taking that, you know, I like making money. What can I say? But, you know, it was like, you know, I was always like entrepreneurial. I enjoyed the making something and selling it, right? I make something, I prepare it with my hands, and I take it, I sell it. I mean, I enjoyed that. I enjoy the cooking, but I enjoy the business. Because you can be a chef and never want to necessarily own your own restaurant. You just want to be the chef of the kitchen. You want to be creative. But I was a chef, but I also love business, you know? So, but I think that is, you know, one of the things that motivates me is creating, but also creating something that's in demand. It's like right now, we've had La Gloria for 13 years, and I met with my team twice, and I'm telling my team, we want to recreate our brand, or we want to recreate our menu and our cuisine, and we want to reposition ourselves. You know, because you have to always innovate, and you always have to evolve with the marketplace. So it's part of that creative. You know, I think that creative wrapped up with history, culture, and then placing it in the marketplace to sell where it's in demand, right? That whole process, to me, I love to see people grow. I like to nurture teams. I love to see it when, you know, the chef's in control and everything's in order and customers are smiling and celebrating. You know, that whole experience is special to me, and I live for that every day. So, yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
I still have a question. How has the field of nutrition influenced your decisions as a chef and the foods that you make now for the city and
Okay. So the question was.
Chef, would you mind repeating?
Sure. Yeah. So the question was around nutrition and how, you know, as a chef and as a business, how do maybe I make decisions, you know, within our operation, you know, within our business. You know, many years ago, the school created a program called Nutrition Excellence, something like that. And I was working at the time for Humana as a consultant, traveling all over the state, doing wellness classes, and I taught a lot of cooking classes. When I started my catering business, I wasn't busy all the time. I had weddings, had quinceañeras, had some corporate events, and I had a lot of time in between. So I did consulting work, and I did a lot of nutritional consulting. And we learned at the school that the best way to impact change is messaging things without the word nutrition in it, you know, and it's wholesome, right? Is it wholesome? Is it fresh? You know, I think that as a chef, I believe that it's our responsibility to be very involved in the dialogue. There's a lot of things, and I was talking to Gina a minute ago, there's a lot of things that affect the quality of food in schools, right? I've been in food conversations about food nutrition in schools for 15 years, you know, and you'll in life, there's, you know, how you position that goal, that message, especially around nutrition is difficult to impose change, right? And it's small steps, baby steps. I know that the culinary school, the messaging on how we teach nutrition, we got rid of all the messaging around nutrition and started focusing on wellness and wholesome and locally sourced, and we educate a lot on the negative impact of let's just say GMOs. And so we educate from that front. That way we're graduating students that have comprehension around, the wellness and food nutrition. But it's been a conversation for a very long time. I have a dear friend, Elizabeth Johnson, who has Farm Table, and her whole concept is around wellness through food. And she's a professor and an intellectual person who's very dialed into that. And it's on the other side of the spectrum for hospitality. Many times, when you're going to restaurants, you're going to celebrate. So you're not so dialed into nutrition, but everybody eats now out. You go back 20 years, you're eating out to celebrate a birthday, a quinceañera, you estás celebrando. And you're not thinking about nutrition. Now in today's world, everybody eats out. So yes, it's now even more important to have those options for not only, all the different, whether it's a celiac or whether some of these, a lot of, our bodies today are affected by so many years of consuming chemicals and preservatives that now, we are affected by, some of the things that are in our food today. So it's, I've read a lot of books over the years to be educated on it, but it's a challenge. And we have to take steps in the right direction on nutrition. And that should be something that part of every conversation in every school. So it starts with the youth, with the young people, because they're, the young people today, the information is out there, right? It's so accessible, it's in our hands, to know what's in our food, where was it grown, where's it coming from, so it's a journey for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's one here on the left. Yes, sir.
Oh, what's your favorite dish to make?
Tacos. Now, my favorite. What was the question? What is my favorite dish? If I had to give up everything and eat one thing, it would be seafood, because I love seafood. I love fresh fish. Maybe because I grew up fishing. Like, I love, when I was writing the menu for La Gloria, I went to a town called Nayarit in Mexico, down central Mexico along the coast, Pacific coast. And this old man, a good friend of mine, took me to Nayarit, and he goes, my tío is going to make you the best pescado zarandeado. So we caught the fish, we cut the fish, we opened the fish, we put sea salt on it, and he tied it onto these wood strips called mangles, and he put it right in the ashes, in the coals. And all it had was sea salt. When it came off the grill, it was pico de gallo and limon and some fresh corn tortillas. And I think that's what I can eat every day for the rest of my life. But it's because it was fresh. It was from the ocean, over wood, and just simple. I mean, I love simple things. I love honest, fresh flavors. And but I could eat that all day. Pescado zarandeado. It was on the menu. It was on the first menu at La Gloria. So we still make it. Yes, ma'am.
I know you said that you were really meticulous and thorough when you're planning something or to take a step. So what's the most important part in your planning method when you take a step?
Right. So the question was, how do you, as you think through your planning and these critical steps of your career, your education, what is, I guess, what is the most important, right? What are some of the critical things to think about as you're laying out your plan, right, is the question. And I would say there's probably two things. Well, let's just assume that you already are on your path, you're on education, you're learning, you're doing what you love. I would say that the next most important thing is really knowing the marketplace or your competition. Because I'm always trying to, keep one eye on the marketplace. I want to know what's happening What are the trends? I'm always educating myself, taking in information of what is happening. And not only here, like, regionally, right? So, depending on what path you're in, I was with purpose trying to outline a region. I was looking at Texas. I said, can I be the top Hispanic chef in Texas? Right, and then it went beyond that because I started doing consulting. But I think knowing that, your area of what you want to enter in is critically important before you really define your steps. Without that, because I'm going to tell you, what's very simple to do is to outline your steps the way you want them, right? The thought needs to be to outline your steps the way for greatest impact, greatest success. Goes back to that word about sacrifice. One of those steps you may not want to take, but it's an important step for your success, right? So, knowing the marketplace, knowing, kind of the area you're going into is critically important. And what I've learned in life is that you write that plan, and you can write a plan for 5 years or 10 years, because they talk about these long-range plans. Hell, that plan can change in 1 year, okay? So, because things move so fast, things change so fast, right? So always be mindful of that, what? It's good to have a plan, because without a plan, you're lost. But that plan, as you learn and as you grow, it changes a little bit, and that's okay, right? I think, some people say, oh, it's a plan, don't stick to the plan. Well, plans can change, trust me, for the better, right? So I think that's critically important, to know the geography, your competition, the future. I'm always thinking of the future, and I take my team sometimes is like, I said, guys, what you all need to understand, when I come to the restaurant, I hate to say it, but I am looking only for everything that is wrong, right? Because everything else should be perfect. So I am always, and again, that's just from being a business person and being a perfectionist. When I walk into a room, I'm looking for everything that's wrong. I remember we were working for Tesla, and we were feeding, who's the owner of Tesla? I forgot his name. Elon, famous guy. So we were feeding Elon for about 4 months when they were building the factory in Austin. I got a call. They're like, chef, we need a favor. Can you feed the team of engineers at Tesla? There's nowhere to eat. They don't have time to go to Austin. And I had several food trucks because I bought them during the pandemic. And so my team was so upset because they're over there. They're going to Tesla every day. We pack the food. We go. We cook it for Elon and his team. And they're like, chef, there's this one guy, and he's always on my butt and about this and that and this. I go, Russ, what you have to understand, he works for the most influential, wealthy man in the world, and his job is to find everything wrong. He is not looking to pat you on the back, to say nice things to you. He is looking to find everything wrong because he knows that his boss, his owner, will be on him if it's not perfect. And that's something that I teach my team. I'm like, look, and because I do love my team and I encourage them and I give them words of encouragement. But when we're in the battle, everything's got to be on, because our customers expecting us to be on, and we're not perfect. When you're not perfect, you apologize and you fix it, right? I mean, that's what the customer wants. They want you to apologize and fix the problem. Most reasonable people, the 2% that or 1% that are just upset, well, you just have to let that go. I tell my team, it's okay. They're upset, let it go. They probably have something going on outside of the restaurant that's affecting their personality. So anyway, long answer, but just some advice. Yeah.
Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Tune into our next Cast Live episode on Thursday, April 13th at 10:30 a.m. Please visit castschools.com for more details. Have a great day.